Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Backer and welcome to Write Better Stories. Joining me today as my co-host is Pringle Backer. I tried to have Lawrence co-host the video with me, but he was tweeting too much, and that was annoying. So today we're going to talk about writer's block. This is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, but if I can actually brag, I don't struggle with writer's block. Probably because I'm a beautiful genius artist. But actually, why I don't struggle with writer's block is because I'm pretty diligent about employing different techniques when I feel like the words coming out of my pen are just not anything that I would want to keep. And so today I'm going to share a couple strategies that I use to keep my writing sessions productive and to keep writer's block at bay. And I think they can help you write better stories or even nonfiction or any kind of writing that you might need. So, number one has two parts to it. Number one is you have to keep writing. So let me tell you what I mean by this. That writing is something that takes discipline, and it shouldn't only be done when you're inspired. And so anytime that the inspiration dries up, a lot of people will take this as an indication that all the writing that they do is going to be unproductive. And that isn't true. Writing is work, and so sometimes when you work, it's not fun, it's not exciting. You just have to keep on putting the next word down on the piece of paper and gather momentum. And so a lot of times if I'm uninspired and not really liking what I write, I am ready to just pack it up at the coffee shop or put the pen down and go and watch TV or something like that. But this is actually an important moment to exercise a muscle that helps you gain momentum. I've heard different people talk about this as though your creativity is like a hose, and sometimes it gets blocked with dirt and gunk. And what you have to do is just write that dirt and gunk out of the hose so that you can start effusively spraying like a big gush of water. So then, more specifically on this first point of actually continuing to write when you get writer's block, that there are some specific strategies that you can employ that help you reframe what you're actually writing. So the first one is one that I learned actually in an improv context, that the biggest enemy of improv and spontaneity and fun is getting in your head. And so a lot of times you can be too in your head when you're writing too, and that puts everything on a really high pedestal and you just don't feel like it's going to measure up to your expectations. That usually means your expectations are a little too high. And so this is actually a fun exercise that when you're writing, you have to let it be bad. You have to really commit to writing really poorly and just get that momentum back. Put stuff down on the page with the specific intention of deleting it later. You don't have to keep it. You don't have to show it to anyone. And I've actually done this before where what I'm writing doesn't even make sense. I'm just putting word after word after word. Today I actually struggled with this, and that was the inspiration to make this video. And one of the lines that I wrote was, "The film industry had become too spicy, but he decided to take a bite." Now, this is something that I hesitated to even share in this video today because it is so bad and is nothing that I would ever want to be associated with. But that being said, I knew that I was hitting an inspirational block, and so I had to just give myself permission to write something that was absolutely terrible. So today, using this technique, I wrote 3 pages, and only 1 paragraph at the very end was something that I'm considering keeping for this book that I'm working on right now. So I would actually consider that a major success. That by establishing that disciplined plan, I was able to move past that period of writer's block. Another thing that you can do too within this first method of continuing to write through your writer's block is to write a meta scene. So instead of writing a scene or a passage from your work of fiction that would actually end up in the book, write about what you would like it to be. This, I think, in a lot of ways helps you reassess your expectations and your plans for what the scene or the passage is supposed to be. Because sometimes there might actually be something wrong with the idea that you're planning on writing, and that's what's preventing it from working. Maybe it contradicts something that you've established in a previous scene, or contradicts something that you'd like to end up at that you're actually excited about. And so by writing the meta scene, you get really concrete about your plan. This can be done as like a list or an outline, but I find actually writing in prose a really vivid description of something that I would like to write about can just clarify for me what my actual intentions are, and then hopefully inspiration can meet me farther along the way. Number 2, this one is not super unexpected, and so I'm not going to dwell on this point, but you might need to actually just get inspired. So maybe take a break from the writing for a second, go read something, go listen to a podcast, go watch a movie, and usually something that you've seen before that you touch base with in order to remind yourself what quality is can really get the creative juices flowing. This is something that I do a lot with the short story The Dead by James Joyce. I did a video about that on this channel. Usually every writing project that I do begins with me rereading The Dead so that I can remind myself what amazing transcendent writing is, and then hopefully fall somewhere short enough of that to make it just good, or something that I can be happy with. So get inspired, consume media. Number 3 is one that you might not expect, but it's exercise. I think a lot of writers are not necessarily people who are like athletes. It's a very heady pursuit as opposed to an embodied pursuit, and so you might need to get in your body a little bit more. Make your blood pump. Get your lungs full of air. Do some cardio. Go ride a bike. I like to take a long walk, usually about 2 miles of walking. It doesn't take more than an hour. I might have just given away that I'm like really slow. But if you're sitting there beating your head against a wall trying to get the ideas flowing, maybe you're just like tired and you haven't really taken care of yourself to the point where you feel physically good enough to sit in a chair for a long enough time to come up with ideas. On this note too, hydrate, eat. Eating can be a little bit tricky though, because I find sometimes if I eat too much, then I'm digesting and the blood is not in my head, it's in my gut. And then it's hard to have the energy. I get tired and sluggish. So you can experiment with that, know yourself, but sometimes you just need to get some energy going in your body and then the ideas flow a lot better. So I've noticed too that if I write in the morning, I have a lot more energy, but if I try to write at the second half of the day, I don't have a lot of energy unless I work out a little bit or I go on a walk or something like that. Number 4 is take a break. This doesn't necessarily mean that you need to break your discipline if you're somebody who writes every day or writes on a consistent routine, but every once in a while, you just have to accept that the writing just isn't going to be there. And you can still show up, you can do your pages where you're trying to gather momentum, but you can really lower your expectations and get inspired again by maybe just taking a week off. It doesn't really matter. Like, you need to kind of reassess the fact that a lot of writer's block comes from those really high expectations and thinking that your first draft of something has to be really good. And so I would say just take a break. Nobody's waiting for your story. Nobody cares about your script or your novel. You just need to reframe, refresh, redo your life. Number 5 is more on this note. It's just knowing that it'll pass. It's not going to be there forever. Life has the ebb and flow. It feels like eternity whenever you're depressed or uninspired, but those moments of inspiration will come back. So I think that all of these things together can really help you beat writer's block, and there's no guarantee that what you write is actually going to be good if you employ these, but a lot of the point of this video too is to not really care about the quality. A first draft is supposed to be about momentum, of effusively getting everything down on the page. And if you're worried about every sentence being perfect, then it's going to be really hard to establish that momentum. So I hope something in what I said today can help you write better stories.